Hey guys, Rick from Invo Gaming here, and for this video I am going to be sharing with you my tips and tricks on where to find and buy retro PC games, how to take care of your retro game collection, and getting the most out of your retro PC gaming experience. Now to start off with, as you can see, I have a lot of games, and most of these games I had actually acquired just in the last couple of years, so my collection has really expanded quite quickly. So to start off with, where do I find my games? Like for online, obviously there are sites like eBay and Craigslist, but if you do most of your shopping on those sites, you will be paying a bit of a premium because it's mostly resellers that are listing their games, or people who actually know how much these games are worth to a collector like you and me. So be prepared to pay a premium on any games that you find on eBay or Craigslist. That's not to say that there isn't the occasional auction where the game is like grossly undervalued, but you're gonna have to do a lot of digging around on the site, like looking for typos, games that are listed incorrectly, that sort of thing. Now, for other avenues online, you can check out things like Goodwill Auctions, which is basically an auction site for all the Goodwill stores in the United States. Those usually have quite a few auctions going on that start at pretty low prices. Now, it's not just for US residents only. Some sellers on there do offer Canadian international shipping, so it's open to the rest of the world. Now, another avenue to pursue are local Facebook groups in your area, like mainly the retro electronic swap groups, video game buy, sell, and trade groups. Normally those will concentrate on consoles, so you're going to have to keep an eye on the posts there, or just post up yourself. Hey guys, I'm looking for retro big box PC games, let me know what you have. Because a lot of the people in those groups, they really don't know that retro PC games are a thing for collectors, so always ask. And be sure to check out the international retro PC groups, like there's Big Box PC Collectors group and the Big Box PC Collectors Marketplace, both of which are the most popular international groups. In fact, I've bought more than one game from members of those groups at really decent prices. So be sure to check those two groups out. I'll put the links to both of those groups in the video description. And lastly, be sure to check out all the different retro gaming websites that are out there on the internet. Most of them have their own private forums, and they'll have a forum specifically for buying, selling, and trading retro video games. So that's another good resource. For offline, besides the usual like Goodwill, Salvation Army, video game traders stores, there are places like Half Price Books, which is unfortunately only available in the US, where you can find pretty good deals. In fact, a buddy of mine just recently found Fallout 1, 2, and Tactics in mint condition for like $5 a piece. So that was an awesome find, considering those games go for around $140 each on eBay. So always check one of those stores out if they're in your area, or any like secondhand bookstores in general, because they'll usually have a couple of games just kicking around in the back somewhere or something like that. Be sure to check out things like charity sales and church bazaars, because not to sound like discriminatory or anything like that, but old people love like donating their like stuff to church for sale. So usually that'll involve like a lot of like retro stuff, retro console stuff too, and retro PC games. So always check those out. And garage sales, like neighborhood garage sales, are probably one of your best bets at finding a decent sized haul of games. So if you go around like a community garage sale, you look for the sellers that have like, console games out, like your PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 stuff, and just ask them if they have PC stuff that kicking around in the house that they would want to get rid of. Now they normally don't, because they normally don't have that stuff out there because they don't think anybody wants to buy it or even wants it. So they'll just keep it in the basement, or like, toss it out. which happens more often than not. They end up tossing it out. So be sure to ask, hey, do you have like, PC stuff kicking around? I'd like to take a look and make you an offer on it. Another good resource is your coworkers, especially if you work in IT, because if you work in IT, the odds of you working alongside a couple of hardcore gamers is really good. So be sure to ask your coworkers. Like, I recently asked a couple older coworkers of mine if they had any games kicking around that I could buy, and they just brought in dozens of boxed games and just said, here, have them. They've just been sitting in my basement, collecting dust. So if you have a sizable collection, it's probably mostly on floppy, which, as we know, magnetic media doesn't last forever. In fact, after 20 or 30 years now, they're pretty much going to be toast pretty soon. So you want to take steps to ensure that you can protect the data that's on there. Now, I do know that you can download like abandonware versions, but those aren't like the original installers. They're pretty much just the game installed and zipped up. So what you can do is, one, you can make an image of the disk using a program like WinImage, which will work for about 95% of the games out there. It's the 5% of games that have like sneaky little tricks to prevent like copy protection or like disk imaging from working. That will give you some problems. So that's where something like this will come in handy. It's a cryoflux. What it does is essentially makes a magnetic copy as opposed to a digital copy of the floppy disk. So instead of like reading the ones and zeros, it's reading the magnetic field that's on the floppy. Now the only downside to that is if the disk is already like corrupted and non-functioning, so it's just going to make a non-functioning copy of it. So it's only really good if you have a working floppy, but it will copy like everything on it. So all the little hidden tricks that publishers and developers put in for copy protection, it'll copy, as well as it's really useful for copying like Apple and Commodore games. So if you're playing on a retro PC, the odds are that you have like a really small hard drive in it, something like 40 megabytes, 100 megabytes, or something along those lines. Now what you can do is get one of these. It's a compact flash to IDE converter, so all you do is just plug in a compact flash card, connect it up to your IDE headers, and it just doubles as a hard drive. Also, if you're playing on a retro PC, what you're going to want to do is take care of the floppy drive, especially if you're playing with your original discs. So you're going to want to get these, which are still like widely available on like Amazon for like just a couple bucks a piece, and just clean out your floppy disks, or sorry, your floppy drives every month, just to prevent like dirt and particulate matter buildup on the drive heads, to prevent damage to the drive heads and from like scratching up the floppies and making those like useless. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is taking care of your retro PC game boxes. So it's obviously not as easy for us to protect our boxes, because unlike consoles, all our boxes are like various different sizes and a lot bigger than like your average NES box. So it would be quite expensive to have like AFA acrylic cases made for all of these boxes. Unless you're super rich, of course, in which case would you mind, making me a set as well. But what we can do is just, do some preventative measures like keeping an eye on the temperature, humidity, exposure to direct sunlight, amount of dust, things like that. Or use something like this. These are acid-free plastic gift wrapping bags that you can buy on Amazon or in local stores in like Chinatown or something like that, and they'll actually work quite well at protecting your box. It's not as easy if you want to, actually use the contents in the boxes, but if you just want to, put the boxes on the shelf and not have to, take out the contents, then they're perfect for it. Well, I hope you enjoyed my video, and I hope some of my tips and tricks will help you grow your collection. So please leave a comment below if you have your own tips and tricks that you use to look for retro PC games. And please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again.